Good evening. I'm Kelda Yoon. You may want to stay away from taking a dip in one of the city's beaches, at least for the next while. Toronto Public Health is warning that its beaches got contaminated with human and animal waste in the aftermath of Tuesday's storm, with 3 of the city's water treatment plants discharging a combined 1.3 billion liters of partially treated sewage. Nama Weingarten has more.
As of Thursday, 6 of Toronto's 10 beaches were marked as not safe to swim in. The water is filled with high levels of E. coli, other harmful bacteria, and things people flush down their toilets that you do not want to splash in. Marie Curtis Beach, one of the worst affected after Tuesday's storm, has a red flag and a sign warning of high E. coli levels. But people we spoke to say they didn't see it.
I wasn't aware of any warning that was put to not go to the beaches or swim in the water. Come out, they say there is a bacteria, you're not supposed to go inside the water.
Others on the beach were aware of the contamination, but just didn't see it as a big deal.
You can see the water is quite calm and we can just chill for 1.5 hours. I don't think there is any danger.
Lada is, my dog is 6 years old, and every year, every summer, we spend here in the lake. So, yes, previous years she got bacteria. This year she didn't. She's healthy completely.
But there are reasons to be worried if you swam in one of the city's contaminated beaches this week.
Bacteria can cause waterborne illnesses in humans, particularly if you're young and if you have an autoimmune disorder. But it's not relegated to those that are young or have an autoimmune disorder. These waterborne illnesses can impact anyone, particularly when we see extremely high bacterial levels. And we certainly did.
So why would heavy rain bring feces all the way to the beach?
Because Toronto's an older city, it has some combined sewer system.
Essentially, sewers pick up both rainwater and sewage from people's homes. It all goes into the same pipe. And then when a wastewater treatment plant can't handle the large amount of rain, like on Tuesday, some of the overflow ends up in the city's waterways or goes directly into the lake.
You can imagine that the amount of rain we had, that's a lot of sewage getting pumped into the lake, and it can eventually find its way to the beaches.
If you're wondering if you should cancel your plans to hit the beach, experts say it could take a couple of days for the bacteria to clear up. Right now, the best thing you could do is to check the data that Toronto Public Health posts daily to see if the beach closest to you is safe. Nama Weingarten, CBC News, Toronto.
A protest was held at Dentonia Park in Scarborough tonight in honor of students killed in Bangladesh.
They're killing innocent, all students in back home, all over the college, all over the schools, all over the universities. We want justice! We want justice! We want justice!
At least 19 people are dead in Bangladesh and hundreds injured in violent clashes with police. Thousands of student protesters armed with sticks and rocks are battling police in the capital city, Dhaka. Protesters are calling for a nationwide shutdown. They want the state to end a controversial government jobs quota system during a period of high youth unemployment. A woman has died in hospital after she was struck by a vehicle downtown. It happened near Queen Street East and Sackville Street just before 6 o'clock tonight. Police say the woman was crossing the street when the vehicle approached the crosswalk and struck her. She was taken to hospital but did not survive. Police say the driver remained on the scene and is cooperating with the investigation. Ontario's self-proclaimed crypto king likely won't be able to walk away from his many debts, at least for now. That's the ruling from a Toronto judge today. Aiden Platursky is accused of taking tens of millions of dollars from investors, promising massive profits in cryptocurrency. Instead, he's accused of blowing much of that money on his lavish lifestyle. Angelina King has the latest.
Aiden Platursky, Ontario's self-proclaimed crypto king, has been bankrupt for nearly 2 years. And a judge decided today that will remain the case, at least for a while. Platursky can reapply to be discharged from bankruptcy, but the judge suggested that not happen until the criminal charges against him are resolved by the courts. The judge ruling, Mr. Platursky's conduct warrants an emphasis on public protection and accountability, refusing a discharge absolutely at this stage, pending the result of the criminal prosecution, would allow this court to take into account the outcome of the criminal proceedings. In the spring, Pleterski was charged with fraud and money laundering after what Durham police say was the largest fraud investigation in the region. Pleterski pleaded not guilty and is out on bail. Lawyer Norman Groot is working on civil cases Pleterski is also facing.
I would estimate at least 2 years before any discharge application comes back again. And if he's sentenced to a lengthy term of incarceration, he's really doesn't have much incentive to apply for a discharge, so it could go on for a very long time. Pleterski staying in bankruptcy is actually for the protection of society at large, so there's no less chance of anyone else becoming a victim of this.
The bankruptcy trustee's lawyer argued Pleterski has been hiding income and assets that should be going to the investors who lost money, including $430,000 worth of virtual weapons he sold online, at least $6,000 he made by managing the accounts of creators on the adult website OnlyFans, and $700 from streaming online.
What are we going to do when we hit 100 followers? How are we going to celebrate?
The bankruptcy proceeding has found of the $41.5 million investors gave him, Pleterski only invested 1.6% of it and spent nearly $16 million on himself, renting private jets, buying luxury cars, and leasing a lakefront mansion in Burlington. Pleterski didn't attend this latest hearing, but in an affidavit, he denied investing only a small percentage of the money he took in, or that he operated a Ponzi scheme, and that he's hidden any assets. His lawyer argued Pleterski did not have ill intent. He's young, the investment operation grew out of control, and he didn't have a proper accounting system in place.
I wasn't surprised.
That's lawyer Tanya Walker's reaction to the judge's decision. She's representing one of the investors in a civil claim.
I hope this really encourages him to take the steps that the court and the investors are asking for, which is where's the money?
A question 160 investors are asking. In total, they've proven they've lost close to $27 million. And so far, the bankruptcy proceeding has only recovered about $3.3 million. Angelina King, CBC News, Toronto.
If you're hoping to swing by your local LCBO again soon, there could be some hope on the horizon. Both sides of the bargaining table are giving negotiations another shot amidst a strike that's now heading into its third week. The return to the bargaining table comes as alcohol sales expand to more retailers today and as restaurants struggle to work through a new system for getting their supply. Clara Pasica has the latest.
As Ontario liquor store workers hit the picket lines for the 14th straight day, contract negotiations continued between the LCBO and OPSU behind the scenes. The talks have this employee optimistic.
I feel hopeful about it because we went back in the bargaining table yesterday, actually. So the fact that there's some movement, they want to talk, is great.
Neither side is sharing details about the negotiations. This worker wants conditions workers are facing better understood.
We're not on the gravy boat like everybody thinks we are. We are getting minimum wage and $1 more if anything. And we don't have benefits as casuals. And the hours could be 5 hours today, could be 20 hours, could be 40 hours.
Away from the bargaining table, the impact of the strike is being felt by businesses that rely on the LCBO as a supplier.
To be honest, there's been moments where I feel like I'm in the prohibition.
This restaurant and shop owner says pivoting to an online ordering system with the LCBO has been tough.
Part of my menu is already out, and after this weekend I'll be out of a lot of my spirits.
But his attached bottle shop has seen an uptick in business.
I'm a local independent small business supporting independent small businesses, and we're doing better because of this.
For the restaurants that don't have that luxury, the impact of the strike could be devastating.
Sometimes we forget just how many hats these independent business operators wear. And in an industry where right now we have 47% of our operators are operating at a loss or barely breaking even, which was 12% before the pandemic, we have to be really mindful of the impact this is going to have on these independent businesses.
Also in the mix today, increased access to mixed drinks. The government says the 450 grocery stores already licensed to sell beer, cider, and wine will now be able to sell mixed drinks beginning today. But the Federation for Independent Grocers says not many of their members have taken them up on the offer because they don't want to be the ones who have to handle bottle returns. Clara Pasica, CBC News.
Welcome back. The market for new condos in Toronto is cold and getting colder. That's according to a report showing new condo sales in the Greater Toronto and Hamilton area have plunged to one of their lowest points in 20 years. Ryan Patrick Jones explains how the sales slump could have negative consequences for Ontario's housing shortage.
With the help of his real estate agent, Kaid Raja is in the market for a downtown Toronto condo. He and his wife are searching for a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom unit with a parking space. But despite looking at places for more than half a year, they can't find anything in their price range.
The costs are relatively high, so that's why, we are not able to find the thing that we need. It is a little frustrating and sad.
And they're not alone. Research firm Urban Nation reported less than 1,700 new condos were sold between April and June. Of the more than 3,000 pre-construction units that went on the market, only 17% were sold. It's the lowest result in the past 2 decades, with the exception of the initial months of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Prices and interest rates are too high for buyers. And I think that the costs to build condos and as well financing costs are too high for developers to lower prices to attract buyers to come back in.
Even though the supply of unsold condo units is up, asking prices have only fallen slightly by an average of 2.6% over the past year. Hildebrand says the sales slowdown is causing a similar decline in the construction of new units.
We're actually moving in the wrong direction from where we should be, given that the population within the Greater Toronto Hamilton area increased by about 250,000 people in 2023.
In 2022, the Ontario government set a target of building 1.5 million homes in 10 years. But the province is currently off pace. A representative of the GTA's building industry says the decline in new condo sales is going to make reaching those housing targets even more difficult.
Housing starts lag pre-construction sales by a year or a year and a half. And so if those sales aren't occurring, the construction starts that would normally be occurring a year and a half later are not going to happen or are going to be delayed. And that means less starts, less supply.
As for Raja, he says he remains optimistic he'll be able to find a home.
I'm expecting that things will slow down and slow down more. They're not good enough to come into my range.
Ryan Patrick Jones, CBC News, Toronto.
Ford has announced plans to assemble F-Series Super Duty pickup trucks at its Oakville assembly complex.
This is great news from Ford Canada. 1,800 men and women going back to work a year early, 400 additional jobs in Oakville at a new stamping plant.
Ford plans to invest approximately $2.3 billion US to expand F-Series Super Duty production at the Oakville facility. The Unifor represented employees at the plant will return to work in 2026. The truck production will replace a previous plan to build battery electric vehicles in Oakville. Air travelers are often asked to allow their carry-on luggage to be moved to the cargo hold. Well, a Toronto couple recently refused that request, and it turned out to be a costly decision. Sophia Harris has their story.
Kalpana and Peru Kumanen packed their carry-on bags with valuable jewelry and medications they didn't want to part with on their flight from Toronto to Vancouver.
One of that is a painkiller for my wife.
But when they were about to board, they say a WestJet agent announced the plane had run out of carry-on space. So the couple had to check their bags. They refused.
I needed the medication on the plane. We did try to tell them there is valuables inside. Why don't you allow at least one baggage? They were not willing to listen.
Instead, WestJet banned the Kumanens from their round-trip flight. So they paid $2,000 to rebook last-minute tickets with Flair Airlines.
I was so mad on that day.
In an email, WestJet said the couple was refused transport due to behavior exhibited while boarding, and that it's common to request that carry-on items are checked when overhead space is limited. The case highlights a growing problem. Due to checked bag fees and fears of lost luggage, more passengers are traveling with carry-on.
The result is slower boarding processes and the fight for the valuable overhead bin space.
One solution some airlines have already adopted, charging for carry-on. Another remedy, enlarging overhead bin space, which United Airlines is doing. But some experts say the best solution is to crack down on oversized carry-on.
Airlines really have to manage and patrol and enforce those regulations. And it's the most brutal solution to the problem, but it works.
It's the right size.
Kumanen says the couple played by the rules as their luggage met WestJet's size limits. In response to a CBC inquiry, WestJet said the couple will be getting a refund for their missed flight. Sophia Harris, CBC News, Brampton, Ontario.
Racing fans are gearing up for a big weekend in the city as the Honda Indy roars into town tomorrow.
The physicality this weekend is going to be tough. But again, the track Friday is nothing like it is on Sunday. So I think Sunday we're all going to be fighting for our lives and having fun out there.
That's last year's Grand Prix winner, Christian Lundgaard, vying to make it 2 in a row at the Indy this weekend. The festival features 3 days of racing as well as international food, beer gardens, live entertainment, and some road closures to be aware of the next few days. Southbound along Strawn from Fleet to Lakeshore will be closed, as well as Lakeshore West from Strawn to British Columbia Drive. As you can see here, drivers in Liberty Village already experiencing some significant delays today, but anticipation is growing for the big race on Sunday afternoon, which kicks off at 1:30. Our Greg Ross was on the track today with Lundgaard, who says he loves our city and not just because he won his first race here.
So Christian, how does it feel to be back in the city where you got your first career win?
It feels great. It's a place that I have a lot of emotions around for obvious reasons, I would say, but it's a track that I enjoy coming to. I enjoyed it a lot in 2022. Obviously enjoyed it a lot more in 2023.
You feel like a bit of a special bond to this city after that win last year?
Yes, but I would say I already did before, which might be the weird thing. I enjoyed coming here in 2022. I got to see the entire city, using the public transport, using the trains for getting around. And in 2023, obviously winning the race, but it was such a quick weekend. Because we typically fly in on a Thursday and we're out by Sunday night, and whatever happens here is, okay, that's it. But I had to leave right after the press conference last year, so I didn't really get to soak it all in.
You actually came back to Toronto after that win last year. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I flew back to Denmark in November, and I booked a flight to fly through Toronto just to stop here, and I had a 13-hour layover and took my little suitcase and just walked around the track. And the funny thing about it is I didn't walk the actual right way, I walked the track the wrong way. But it was cool to see the entire place just without concrete barriers.
So we're going to take a quick spin around the track in this Honda.
Yes, sir.
All right, you ready? Let's take a ride.
Yeah, let's do it.
Drivers always complain about this track. What's the problem with this track? They do. You didn't find any problems?
The drains.
The drains.
The drains
also,
are the problem.
The surface changes as well.
Yes.
Especially when you hit that white concrete in some of the areas of the track. That's slippery, isn't it?
It's very, very slippery. In Denmark, where I grew up, we didn't have wet tires in the smaller go-karts, so we basically had to drive around on slick tires that has no grooving. So it's basically just as driving on ice.
So do you think that prepared you for this track?
These type of situations, for sure. And I know a lot of drivers that grew up in that sort of environment are the ones that are able to find the grip in areas where other people can't.
So you don't mind the track?
I love this track. I love street circuits in general. You're downtown. You get to see so much more than you typically would do.
So you feeling confident?
I feel very confident.
All right, let's go to Colette now with more on the forecast. And Colette, I know some people like the heat and humidity. For me, though, today's conditions were pretty much perfect.
That's right. I like the heat and humidity.
There you go.
Yes, I'm maybe a little more comfortable. I get it, totally. And we're going to be into this new air mass for a couple of days here. And as well, we're going to be under the influence of high pressure for a few days, which is stable air, so sinking, and means a lot of clear skies at night, but that gives us a lot of sunshine during the day. You can see, as we look at the jet stream, though, that ridge that is in the west west. And I was showing some temperatures in here where we're during the afternoon hours been seeing low 30s, and then that cooler trough we got into today, and we're going to experience that tomorrow as well, but the jet levels off a little bit. So our temperatures actually will be coming up a little as we go through the day, Friday and Saturday. And then there's cold air that wants to sink back in Saturday night into Sunday. And this cold front, as it makes its way in, is probably going to bring down the temperatures again. So we kind of get back to seasonal by Saturday and then brings them down again a couple of degrees as we go into the second half of the weekend. Looking at some of the highs from today, I mean, you could almost think this was early June, right, with some of these numbers, just some low 20s. Certainly last night, the overnight temperatures were in the mid-teens, very comfortable for sleeping, but tonight, they're actually, in many cases, dipping down. We may even see a few single digits showing up on the board for the overnight lows, so cooler readings, but there it is with that high pressure. So we get a few little fair weather clouds, mostly sunny skies, and then this is on Saturday. That front starts to approach as it comes through the GTA on Sunday and eventually southwestern Ontario. Sunday, some isolated showers are possible. I know we've got the Indy. I think it's going to be generally pretty dry, but just know that, be aware of that. Also, be aware that tomorrow those winds shift from the northerly flow that we've been experiencing to a more southwesterly flow, and that also helps pull those temperatures up. But just having a look, could have a few readings, maybe London slipping to 9 degrees tonight, possibly Barrie as well. And then it's 25 for tomorrow. Saturday, 27, so back to a normal high for this time of year. I bring a little more cloud cover in on Sunday, though, as that cold front approaches, and just dip that temperature down a little bit. It's nothing too significant. Humidity pretty comfortable for a few days here, though.
I like the sound of that. Thanks so much, Colette.
You're welcome.
And that's our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching.